Hello, and welcome to episode 76 of PauseCast. It's March 15th, 2018. I am Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Hanna, I use he, him. Welcome.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you going?
Yeah, I'm doing alright. It's weird that we're streaming right now of all possible times, because right now some stuff is happening on Twitch. If you are not familiar with exactly what's happening right now, Drake, the rapper, is streaming with a streamer called Ninja. They're playing Fortnite together, and they just completely shattered Twitch's concurrent viewership records by almost 200,000 at one point. So, some wild stuff happening, and if you're joining us tonight, thank you for taking the time to do that. Yard Gnome 737 in the chat says, "Look, I turned off the Ninja stream to watch this." So, well, thank you for being here and not being a part of Twitch history instead, I guess.
You clearly made the right choice.
Yeah, you should listen to like us two nerds talk about video games for an hour. How's that? Oh, hell yeah. So, we are going to talk about a few things, I think. Mark, you have not played a lot of video games, have you?
So, what I have played is, I've played a bunch of Diablo III. I think we mentioned last week that with the new season started, we've each started a new character that we've played together. So I think most of that I've played with you, and some of it I've played without. And also kind of as a result of playing that, I've finally gone and finished the Adventure Zone, because Diablo 3 is a great podcast game. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few that I can actually multitask to. So, yeah, my week in video games has been fairly monotonous, but quite stress-free in playing Diablo 3.
Well, I'm glad that it has been stress-free, because that's kind of the way to be.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what I have been playing this week?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
No,
we could totally skip that, and we could just talk about Diablo 3.
Obviously, I want to know what you've been playing. Come on.
Oh, I have played Diablo 3. I've put a bunch of time into that. I'm running a wizard this season.
You're running like a wizard and a barbarian and like two other things?
Yeah, I mean, like, those aren't seasonals. Like, they're just kind of extant in the background.
Sorry, I thought they were.
No, the seasonal characters I have are the barbarian and the wizard. And I was really, really surprised to learn that the wizard was voiced by Grey Delisle, who, if you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, you may remember as the voice of Azula.
Ah, actually, yes. No, I've had someone tell me that before, and it's one of those things that once it's in your head, you hear it every time, right?
I constantly hear it. It's incredible to be playing Diablo alongside Azula, who is absolutely one of my favorite characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
And there's kind of a similar sort of personality. There's definite similarities, so you can... It really helps picture it with that voice as well, I think.
Yeah, I could see that, for sure.
The wizard in Diablo is very arrogant and confident in themselves, and I think Azula can definitely say the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that assessment. She's... I don't know if she's necessarily arrogant, but she is definitely, like... I guess, like... She's confident, and she is, like, controlling as well in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She is controlling and manipulative and, like, kind of just an all-around brilliant character. Like, I love Azula.
As it didn't happen when I said it, but as you said the word arrogant, my brain auto-filled it out to the bark by one of the bosses in Diablo that starts with the word arrogant. And now it's just like, you know when you get a song stuck in your head? And it's okay, because you've probably got like 15 seconds of the song. I have the same like 3-second bark from Diablo 3 running on loop in my head right now, and it is not great.
No, that sounds like a bad headspace to be in, my dude.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I kind of experience music a bit differently from other people, I think. Like, music kind of comes to me as whole pieces. Rather than, like, 15 seconds stuck in my head, no big deal. It's like a whole piece stuck in my head, and then, like, I have to listen to it, or the whole thing is just going to keep playing on loop forever. Also on my list of things that I've played this week, though.
Yes.
Briefly, I played. It's this game, and I'm just gonna try and remember the name of it really quickly. Here it is, Swarm Lake. That's what I was playing.
Swarm Lake.
Swarm Lake. One word.
Okay.
The basic premise of this is it's a very, very small, very, very fast first-person shooter that is centered all around having 10,000 things filling your screen. And it's quite literally 10,000 things. There's like a swarm and it is constantly growing. And you are armed with a gun that kind of automatically fires and can also give you a like movement ability. And the aim is just to like keep racking up a high score, and that is it. It is very simple in concept. It is a bullet hell, and it was 17 kilobytes to download. Like, it's nothing at all.
That's really small. Does it like have no textures or something?
Yeah, it's all very, very flat and very, very basic models and shapes. There's not like a ton of logic to it either. Like, as far as logic goes in this game, like, it's kind of just, if you shoot this thing, then a little green crystal will fall out, and if you collect the crystal, your score goes up.
Right.
That's it.
Okay,
it's
yeah,
very simple. It's from the maker of a very small platformer game, which I was also gifted by this same friend. It's called Refunked.
Refunked.
Yes, it is a
Okay,
first-person platformer with some very, very light puzzle elements, movement-focused. It was like a really, really charming and well-made game. Mm-hmm. And so, like, this person having now made their second game, and it's very, very short as well. It's another first-person title, and it's got this, like, basic concept again. It's really, really fun to see and cool to play. I'm gonna probably put a little bit more time into this game because, like, you get the point of it very quickly, but I could see myself using it to, like, manage target tracking and stuff like that, and, you know, make myself generally better at first-person shooters.
Nice. I just remembered another game that I've played, sort of, in that I've tried Bloodborne since it's the PS Plus game.
Oh. Tell me more.
I didn't get very far.
Okay.
But yeah, that game explains nothing to you, eh? Like,
no, Dark Souls has historically never done that, and that is very much in the legacy of Bloodborne there. Like,
so I'm sorry, Gizmo just brought his toy up.
Oh.
Sorry.
Start that sentence again, though.
Yeah. Sorry.
I gotta edit this.
It's the cutest thing, though. Okay. What was I saying?
You were saying something about you had just started Bloodborne and not gotten very far.
Yeah, so the first impression of most games, right, is the character creator, and very quickly in Bloodborne I was both kind of overwhelmed by the number of options, but given absolutely no reason to care about any of them. It might just be I wasn't in the right mood when I started it, but I really didn't like the character creator, because it didn't make me feel like I had a lot of power over what my character looked like. It just made me feel like I had a million sliders and I didn't know what any of them did.
Right, gotcha.
So all I did was like pick a preset and go familiar face a bunch of times, which is kind of like what I did when I played Dark Souls, actually, except not familiar, similar face. But in Dark Souls I also put the like similarity value way down, so you just get more and more out of it faces until they were like very yellow, very blue, very yellow, very blue, and huge eyes, small eyes, huge eyes, small eyes. That was fun. I didn't find anything that did exactly that here, but it was like, I think if I remember correctly, it generates like a grid of slightly morphed faces, and you can pick one. I just did that several times.
Yes, that's
and thought,
correct.
Like, that'll do. And like it's a reasonable way of doing fairly quick character creation, I guess. Like I said, I although I know I could have spent a lot of time to customize it, it didn't feel like the character creator was empowering, and that it didn't really feel intuitive what everything was going to do.
Yeah,
But,
there's some weird ones in there. Like, there's an age value buried in
Yeah,
there
no,
somewhere, and it goes from 0 to 255 because that's how old people get, and mostly you can get green. It just kind of makes your skin more green the further that
I
slider
found the
goes up.
age because it has a lot of things that it doesn't really explain, but they're presets on a slider that you can later change. And age is one of those, and it goes, are you like young or middle-aged or old? And I just saw, they're getting wrinklier or smoother skin, in my case. But yeah, I did that a little bit and then sort of said, screw it, I'll just try this game. So right off the bat, unfortunately, that meant I didn't care much about the character I just created.
Yeah.
And then I was thoroughly confused because I think the first enemy it throws at you was meant to kill you, but you don't really know.
Yes, that is the case. You are absolutely supposed to be killed by them.
Yeah, because I did. But after a fight where I was just like, I'm not hurting them very much, they're probably meant to kill me, and eventually I died. When I watched my flatmate play it, he just ran past them and out of the building, and I had to tell him like, by the way, if you want a weapon, you should probably die.
I mean, like, eventually something is going to kill you in the world anyway if you're just, using your fists.
But,
you can totally avoid that enemy, and you don't have to fight them. You can just run past them. But you'll be killed by something else eventually, so you'll just end up where you ended up, which is the hunter's dream.
Yeah,
It is criminally bad about explaining things. There is the messages on the ground. I
Yeah,
think
they had a bunch of messages all in there, and they told me a few things I needed to know, a lot of stuff I didn't need to know, and they didn't tell me a few things I think I should have known that I probably still don't know.
Right.
And then I went and I felt a bit better now that I could actually hit things and do more than 1 in 3 damage. And I think I played up to the point where there's the first dog, and I got a fright, and I didn't want to hurt the dog, and I died. And then I kind of moved on to something else, I think. And I mean, if I'd paid for it, I probably would have put more effort into it, and I might return to it at some point. But my first impressions were it doesn't feel like a game that's going to draw me in a whole bunch, unfortunately, because I know that, and comparing it with Dark Souls, since I have played the first Dark Souls, and you've talked about Bloodborne before, I know they've got really cool monster designs and stuff, and I would be keen to go through and see more of that. Honestly, I feel like this is a game that I would enjoy watching more than I would enjoy playing.
Right. I think that makes sense, and I think a lot of people kind of feel that way about Souls in general, because those games are largely inaccessible due to their difficulty. It's kind of a thing, and it's so core to how those games are designed that it just means that they're not really for everyone. Which definitely makes it more fun to watch for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was playing Dark Souls 2 last night on stream, and that's a really, really good stream game. Especially when even if you have to repeat certain sections for 20 minutes or so, it's just very fun to be interacting with the people that are watching you do this. Souls games are kind of good for that. They're good for streams.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you with that.
Monstrosity. No, I'm completely off of whatever my train of thought was.
No, but I think you still had more games. You said you'd played it, I think.
I mean, Overwatch is another one on my list as usual.
Yeah.
Overwatch is still a good game. It's a good game with bad balance, maybe. Still, that hasn't changed. I love the hell out of Overwatch. I didn't watch the League today, which was a weird change of pace for me.
That's alright, I didn't either.
I mean, you don't normally, so...
No. But hey, join the club. So, we've played Diablo 3 together, and I've played it a bunch before, but I think you're more familiar with similar games like Torchlight. I'm really interested to hear your fuller thoughts on how it compares, because we haven't talked a whole bunch about that when we're playing.
No, I think I've mentioned a couple of things to you when we're playing. I guess when I want to compare Diablo 3 to Torchlight, the first thing that jumps out at me is aesthetic difference. Torchlight is much more lighter in tone.
There's a very clear style to it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's quite brilliant for that. The style of Torchlight is really, really great, and it does actually allow it to kind of hide this little aspect of darkness behind its world as well. Like, there is a whole, like, I guess, seedy underworld, for lack of a better set of terms. There's cool, like, gods and mythology. And there's also, like, weird incidents at sawmills with werewolves. And there's, like, bloody sauce and stuff. Like, it's bad at times in Torchlight. But, like, Diablo 3 is a lot more, like, I guess, explicit about, like,
yes,
a lot of its the world's residents kind of suffering over the course of this game.
There's literally a tortured dungeon tile set.
Yep. In which you kill the fittingly named Butcher.
Yeah, and like, there's like hundreds of skeletons just around.
Where Diablo, like, where Torchlight has, like, dark undertones, Diablo kind of wears it on its sleeve, and, like, several other games in this genre tend to wear this darkness on their sleeves, primarily in aesthetic. Like, you look like things like Path of Exile, you look at The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing, you look at Victor Vran, you look at Grim Dawn. All these games have very dark aesthetics.
I wonder if that comes in part from Diablo, the first Diablo being, I guess, such a, I don't know what word to use, trend-setting, like a
genre-defining.
Yeah, kind of... that's a good way of putting it. A genre-defining game. Like, they all they must inherit something from that. These games that play so similar to it.
A lot of these games do, in fact, kind of try and carry on that legacy, and that may be why it's gotten, like, why that aesthetic is so popular. Where Torchlight takes a little bit more of a cartoony look, and, like, games like Titan Quest also exist, which, like, aim to put this alternate mythology and spin on it, on the set of genre conventions. Most games kind of try to follow in the footsteps of Diablo and Diablo 2 more specifically, because Diablo 2 is largely seen as the benchmark for the series. Coming over to Diablo 3, from what I know of Diablo 2, and from most ARPGs as well, Diablo 3 runs on a very, very simplified skill system in comparison to a lot of games. For those who aren't familiar, there is 4 core skills and then a set of runes for each skill. So, like, the total amount of skills that you're going to be using at any given point is pretty low to start.
6 core skills, because you've got numbers 1 to 4 and also your mouse buttons.
Right, yes, you do have the, like, primary and secondary attacks on those buttons as well. You could make them whatever, I guess, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it lets you swap them out pretty easily as well, and respec pretty easily, which is not something that, again, a lot of ARPGs do, and there's not a lot of focus on actual kind of stats, I guess. Like, you look at some... If I look at Torchlight 2, for example, every time I level up, there is a set of stats that I'm going to have to increase. So I'm looking at an increase to, like, my intelligence, my strength, my vitality. All this stuff is explicitly done and determined by me, so I have a little control over my build that way. Where in Diablo, it kind of just happens automatically via a dice roll. And
I don't even think there's a dice roll. I think it's standard as far as I know.
Okay.
It's if I remember right, it's basically as you level up with each level, your main stat increases, and pretty much just about everything comes from your equipment instead.
Well, everything else does get a buff. Like, there is behind the scenes buffs to, like, vitality and intelligence and all of these things.
But I think that a level 20 wizard is a level 20 wizard is a level 20 wizard.
Yeah. There's not really much going on with the actual, like, leveling, and instead Diablo 3 kind of condenses everything down into 3 core stats, which is just vitality, damage, toughness, and recovery, which is it's all pretty straightforward. I think damage is how much damage per second that you're doing, or per attack, I'm not quite sure. Toughness is how much damage you can take in total before your health pool is completely drained. This includes like death saves and such. And then recovery is how much health you can recover over a given period of time as well. Like, all of these core stats are primarily affected by your gear, and they're not really affected by levels, which is very, very different to what you see in Torchlight. In Torchlight, in addition to there also being like much higher skill pool, like you can have up to 10 active skills where you actually have to actively press them, all across 1 to 0 on the keyboard. And then you also have your primary and secondary, and you have, like, I guess levels that matter and have a little bit more impact because you get to choose the impact of the level for yourself and what stats you're going to see go up.
And that's standard for most of these games. Like Diablo 2 had it the same. When you level up, you got a skill point you could put into a skill, and a stat point you could put into a stat. Or you might have had multiple stat points. It's been a while since I played. Other games like Path of Exile as well. You know, you level up, you get points that you spend sort of irrevocably. There might be ways you can respec, but they have costs, and usually increasing costs. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I will say one thing that makes the format that Diablo 3 uses quite interesting is that it's a format that also works on consoles, which Diablo 3 has a port to every modern console and a Switch version in the works.
That's something I hadn't thought about and didn't know about.
The ability to have all of those abilities on a single like face button would be kind of the appeal of that, because then you have the ability to bring Diablo onto consoles and expose this genre in particular to an even greater audience than it has on PC, because the console install base is generally higher, I believe, is how those stats kind of play out. So like it's just a bigger audience for this particular genre, and it's also interesting to see like more games which have historically been PC only attempting to make that transition and the different ways that they've done that. Diablo, I think, has a pretty successful implementation of that. Titan Quest has an upcoming port to console. Not sure how that one's going to play out.
Because they just the version you've been playing is their anniversary one, which is basically a not a remake, but what's the word when they modernize the visuals?
Remaster?
Yes, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
I have been playing the remastered version of Titan Quest, and that's what's getting ported to the PlayStation as well, with a new UI for console-based skill usage, which is, I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't seen it in motion, but it's quite interesting to see that. And it's interesting to have the idea, again, of this genre and this game that has not historically been available on consoles coming to consoles.
Yeah, I wonder how it's going to play out, because a lot of skills are based on clicking in a certain area or having your cursor in a certain area when you press on something. And I know, for example, using a controller versus using a mouse changes a lot how it works in an FPS. But actually putting some indicator over something is much more of a pain, I think, on a console. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if it becomes more of a directional thing or something. I wonder.
It very well might be like a directional thing, like, hey, it'll hit basically right in front of you, in whatever direction you point this. I could also see in solo games something akin to what Dragon Age Inquisition did for its controls. You have the ability to stop time in Dragon Age Inquisition and like position your area of effect attacks and then resume with the attack beginning to execute. I could see something similar happening in like Diablo or Titan Quest, where an area of effect ability is used, time stops, you can position the area of effect exactly where you want it to hit, and then fire it and resume time.
I'd be very surprised to see that come up in Diablo 3 in particular, because of how fast-paced they try to make the end game.
Yeah, for sure. I think in that case you'll probably be seeing the like that like just position it right in front of you, point the direction over there, and kind of hope it sticks rather than an actual like time stop manual position and do that. It was really interesting to see that system come into Dragon Age Inquisition, and I believe it got used in the console ports of the previous Dragon Age games as well.
Didn't the original Dragon Age games let you pause time during combat though?
They did on PC. I don't know about the console ports.
Oh,
I know
okay.
that
I only played PC.
Origins on console was perhaps a more real-time affair.
Okay. I didn't realize that they'd changed that between the different platforms.
It's kind of weird. The Dragon Age games are kind of weird with their console ports. I'd have to do a little bit more research and digging into them.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's action RPGs. Like, Diablo's got less skills, but has some more, like, I guess, newbie-friendly features, and it makes, like, a good introduction to ARPGs, I think.
How have you found the end game compares with the end game of Torchlight? Because I haven't played Torchlight very far. I think I've played as far as I have with you, which you've seen is like into this third area or something. How do they compare?
The thing about Torchlight Endgame is that by the time you reach Endgame, you're nowhere near level cap. So, rather than Diablo 3, where once you reach the end of the game, you're probably at level cap, and you probably have really powerful gear, and you're on to, like, progressively harder and harder difficulties. Torchlight just leaves you kind of in pursuit of continuing levels, continuing to increase the power of your character through those means, rather than through what Diablo 3 does with the Paragon system, and giving you, I guess, little buffs that apply to all your characters. It reminds me, that particular system reminds me most of the Borderlands series.
How did that work?
The Borderlands series has Badass rank.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, which would apply a series of buffs that you got to choose at certain points. I forget, you had to get like badass tokens for doing, I guess, like aspects of completing that game. You would get a certain amount of badass tokens that you could spend. And your badass rank would apply to all of your characters, much like the Paragon level does in Diablo 3. Which, what can you get that Paragon level up to? Like, what's the max? Because I can only imagine it's like Paragon probably, there's 50 in each category.
I think
you'd
actually
be able to get up to Paragon 800. And that would be the
that's
limit.
what I used to think, but I think there are actually some that are uncapped. Like, I think your life or your attributes might be uncapped, whereas most of the, like, you know, your speed and your movement speed increase and stuff, those are capped at 50. But I think there are some that are uncapped. So I don't know if the Paragon levels are capped at 800 or if they just keep going forever.
I mean, I guess we could find out eventually. It'll take a while.
I mean, we've been playing on the America server, but I've got most of my characters on the Asia server, and I can't remember what Paragon level I've got up to with that, because every time a season ends, all the experience you got in that season gets immediately applied onto your non-seasonal characters, so your Paragon level will go up by however much. I know I'm well into the hundreds, but I don't remember how far into the hundreds I am, if I'm approaching 800 or anything like that. Because I've done a fair few seasons in Diablo now.
Yeah. I don't know. Could be interesting to find out if there is actually a cap. I imagine, like, it's been several years since this game was released. Somebody's either hit it or knows that you can get way beyond it.
Certainly, yeah. People will definitely be high. Will definitely have either hit or been higher than 800, depending on which is possible.
It's amazing how high you can get in a lot of, like, Blizzard games. I guess World of Warcraft is kind of the exception, but everything else kind of has some form of unlimited level cap. Like Overwatch, I'm level 320 something right now.
I suppose when these are games that people will spend so much time in, it makes sense to just have no really achievable level cap, so that even the people who spend hundreds and hundreds of hours can keep going. Kind of like how Monster Hunter uncaps your hunter rank, so you can spend hundreds of hours, and you don't just hit like Hunter rank 15 and stop or something.
Speaking of Monster Hunter, Devil Joe coming out soon.
Yeah, I heard. It's a week from today, I think. Or possibly a week and a day because time zones.
Get ready for Angry Pickle, because they are coming.
I just hope it's a worthy challenge.
Do you think, are you at a point where you're worried about it being a worthy challenge?
I mean, well, there's a couple of things here. One is, and this is probably because I'm just so used to this series, I've felt a bit disappointed in the overall difficulty of the game, in which there were more challenging in-game things. I haven't seen all the in-game things, but I know about most of it, and yeah, I wish it was a little more. And also the fact that Devil Joe is being added, a couple of months or however long it's been since after the original game came out, there are a lot of people who have the highest tier equipment you can have. So I don't want Devil Joe to just show up and then a whole bunch of people can just really, really easily beat it because their gear is like 3 tiers above it or something. Because it's Devil Joe is always supposed to be a kind of a scary monster that shows up and messes your hunt up when it shows up. So I hope that it won't just be that experience for people who are playing through the game now. I hope it will also be able to give a challenge to in-game players. I mean, if not, I'll just use some gear that's not so good and fight it when it's a bit more challenging that way. But it's always a little disappointing to have to do that, I guess. I don't know. In previous games, they have had like Devil Joe and Berserk Devil Joe, I think it is, which is a different icon on the quest and is like always in its rage mode or something like that, and deals a lot more damage. So they might do something like that to have an in-game challenge as well as one that isn't just going to completely annihilate people who aren't in the in-game already. I haven't heard or looked to see if one of those is going to be the case.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Monster Hunter to accurately contribute to this conversation.
Sorry.
That's okay. I know one thing about Monster Hunter. You sure do hunt those monsters, huh? And they're real big, huh?
Did you say
no,
shouldn't?
You sure do hunt the monsters.
Oh, yes. Yes, you do. And some of them are big.
Sometimes they're big. Sometimes they're small. Sometimes they're just big fucking iguanas. Like, that's it.
Which one are you thinking of as an iguana? If you know
I'm thinking of the Great Jagras.
Okay, I thought you might be. Yeah.
It's just a big iguana.
That's a relatively small monster, though.
Time to get a wire.
Or a new laptop, I don't know.
You own the house. You could run wires.
I could. And eventually I should.
It wouldn't hurt you to run wires.
No, but it's a bunch
rather, it might hurt you, and you should probably pay a professional to do it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't try myself to run a wire through the wall. That sounds like a bad idea.
I think, like, if you got, like, a switch kind of built into your wall, almost, could do that.
No,
like, have a switch from the, like, router, and it just, you plug in all 4 cables into that switch, and then they all go off to different places in the house, and you can then just plug into a socket at the wall in each individual room. Could work.
Could work. It's just doing it.
Doing it's a pain.
Yeah. You're asking me to organize something.
We're going to move on.
Fair enough.
I want to talk about another different thing that I've played this week. A little bit. You hear about zombie games?
I mean, we've played a bunch of Dying Light together.
I have played a bit of Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies over the past couple days here. It's a bit of like sharpening up my aim and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been playing the zombies mode in that game, weirdly.
I find it so strange that Call of Duty has made a tradition of having a zombie mode.
Yeah, like, I don't think anybody ever would have seen that coming, let alone it being as big a success as it was. But
It
lo
was
and
just
behold,
kind of like a joke mode in one of the games, wasn't it? And then it really caught on.
I'm not entirely sure. Like, it debuted back in World at War, which was like a World War II shooter, and it pitted you against Nazi zombies. And maybe that's the appeal. It's very fun to like just kill Nazis again.
For sure, yeah. That could be part of it.
Talking
I remember
about
watching...
a guilt-free enemy again.
I remember watching my brother play a bunch of that. It was the one where you used your telekinesis to board up the windows, wasn't it?
Yes, you do use telekinesis to board up windows.
That's right, yeah. No, I didn't play it, but I watched a bunch of it.
It's like, the thing that I've found playing this mode is that it's surprisingly complicated, and there's like a whole puzzle aspect.
Okay, I hadn't expected that.
The map that I'm playing right now is one called Shadows of Evil, primarily, and it's the base
ominous.
zombies map in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. There's like, it's kind of wild. There's like a whole section where you like can transform and become a beast.
Oh.
There is like, yeah, you have like tentacles and weird shit, and
What?
like you're cursed. Like there is ritual sites that you have to find specific items for and apply them there, in addition to all this like wave survival stuff that's happening in this game.
Is there,
It is-
like, can you win it, or is it just endless waves?
You can win each map is the thing, which is why it's
Oh.
like so much of a puzzle for me right now, because I don't know my way around the map fully. So I have to figure that out as I'm going. I found like one item that is needed out of 5 to complete the map. So like,
Do you use them to
I'm
unlock
getting
new
somewhere.
areas or something?
no, it's just required for all of the like ritual sites.
Okay.
So, like, I haven't even found anything for specific ritual sites. I've just found the thing that powers them all. New
Right.
areas you get into by, like, opening doors, and in some cases... Well, it's like, in order to open doors, like... Alright. Look.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but just... The way you worded that and how it sounded like a feature... And it's just the way you get into new areas is by opening
radical
doors.
new feature in video games. Just open a door.
And you go to a new area.
Amazing. Technology's gotten us so far. Normally you would just go into like the black void and there would be a loading screen. And then you would appear in the next area. Now you can seamlessly transition between areas using doors. A magical new invention brought to you by
Monster Hunter
video
World
games.
has gone far enough to remove the doors entirely.
Wow. Just no doors and you can just kind of go anywhere?
Well, I mean, there are doors in the main hub, but there are no doors in the outdoors. Because it's without
I don't
doors.
think that was as funny as you thought it was.
No, it's exactly as funny as I thought it was, which is not funny. That's the point.
I think that in and of itself is beautiful. Doors in Call of Duty cost points to open.
Just like
Is the
real
problem.
life. Just like real life.
Yeah. Just like in real life, you must pay a total of 500 to 1,000 points. And you pay those and you get to open the door.
It's why I
And
leave the doors in my
brings
room, in
you
my
to the
house
area.
ajar, because I just can't afford paying points to open them all the time after I close them again.
I mean, you could just kill some zombies and then you'll get your points back.
I have put a lot of effort into having a zombie-free house, thank you very much.
You don't have, like, a convenient window in which the zombies can just spawn for you to get free points?
Well, up here on the second floor, they're not just right outside the windows.
Aw. That's a shame. It must be so hard to get your points back.
Well, you can let me know when they invent flying zombies. Please, if they do, let me know.
I will let you know the instant that flying zombies are invented, because I promise you, we need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You'll let me know the same, right?
Oh, hell
By the
yeah.
way, like, if there's flying zombies, you'll let me know to get the fuck out of here?
Yep. Same thing if I
Excellent.
see burrowing zombies.
Okay, yeah, that's also very scary, actually, now that I think about them. Cool. Didn't want to... Nope, didn't want to think about that. Hey, I didn't want to sleep tonight. It's fine. We're
I'm just
good.
going to shut my mouth. I won't tell you about all my other zombie ideas.
Okay, great. You did get me thinking... You know what you got me thinking about? You got me thinking about how much I miss Jetpack Cat.
Jetpack Cat?
Jetpack Cat was a proposed character for Overwatch.
Oh.
It was going to be a cat with a jetpack. I don't know what else needs to be said about Jetpack Cat.
I could have guessed that.
I want Jetpack Cat back in Overwatch. I want them to no longer just be a concept, and I want them to be real, and I want it to be now.
When you say real as in Overwatch real, or real as in real?
Real as in Overwatch real, I would love to play as a cat with a jetpack.
That's fair. Who wouldn't?
I can't think of anyone who wouldn't want to be playing as Jetpack Cat. Maybe maybe you could add a skin too where the Jetpack Cat is also a Jetpack Dog? Just saying. Hire me, Blizzard. I've got great ideas like this and more.
Also, that's blasphemy.
What do you... Oh, I guess it would be. You could do like a Halloween Frankenstein skin. That'd be fun. Just do like a Frankenstein cat dog.
Oh no, have you seen the cartoon Cat Dog?
I have not ever seen the cartoon Cat Dog.
Okay. Because that's the image that comes into my head when you say that.
Oh yeah, I know fully that was what was going to come into your head.
Okay.
I have no memory of Cat Dog because I had a deprived childhood.
I personally wouldn't miss it.
That's fair. Yeah, I had a deprived childhood. That's just where I'm at, sadly. Good times, good times.
Okay. Let's move on to something that's a little less depressing, sorry.
Oh, okay. You got something?
One thing I wanted to mention this week. I'm sure I've mentioned before, or it's at least been implied, that I'm quite a fan of Chucklefish games. They've made and produced games like Starbound and Stardew Valley. And just earlier this week, they announced another game that they're going to publish, which I think looks like it'll be pretty cool because it's a pixel art, turn-based kind of game by the same developers they've worked with before. That made another pixel art turn-based game called Halfway. This new game is called Pathway. I don't think they're related. I think they just have sort of similar names. But they put a trailer up. It looks like it's a very Indiana Jones type game. It's 1936. There are Nazis and ruins and such. So I don't know exactly how the whole thing's going to play out yet. I don't know if it's going to have some of the same cultural missteps as Indiana Jones, perhaps. But it looks pretty. They've got like pixel art lighting and stuff, which looks really neat. That's not something you see much in pixel art games. Normally you might see like day-night cycles and stuff, but it looks like they've actually got like flickering shadows and stuff like that as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all goes. And yeah, I thought this game looked cool, and I'm looking forward to it coming out. I'll drop the link real quick in the Twitch chat if anyone is listening. Oh, you are ahead of me.
I beat you to it.
You beat me to it. But yeah, I think that looked pretty cool. I don't think they've actually got a release date for it yet. They've just said that it's being worked on. But yeah, new turn-based pixel art game from Chucklefish is exactly the sort of thing that I like. So I should definitely.
I will also say, if you're excited about Chucklefish projects, you might be happy to know that their upcoming like wizarding / witch RPG thing in the vein of Stardew Valley has gotten a new name. We don't have a release date yet, but that very cute game is called Witchbrook now.
I saw that, and also I had not heard of this before that, which surprises me because like I've set up I follow their blog. I'm probably one of the only people left in the world who uses an RSS reader.
You are. Continue.
Yeah. And like their blog is one of the ones that pops up that I'll always read. It'll never go past, and I won't have noticed that they've put something there. And I'm sure I haven't seen them mention it there before, so I somehow didn't even know about that until today. So that's also exciting that I learned about 2 games they're working on this week.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that project. I hope it goes well for them, because
what
Chucklefish does good games.
You've mentioned very little about it now. All I know is what you've mentioned just now, and I've seen one screenshot. What's the gist of the game?
You are a wizard or a witch, and you're going to school. And there's like a whole like classes, and like it's very kind of Harry Potter in concept, I guess.
Okay.
Very much not an execution though. Like in terms of execution and like color palette, I think it reminds me a little bit more of Little Witch Academia, which is a anime series which was created by Studio Trigger.
Okay.
It's a really fantastic series, which it is about young witches going to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's fundamentally what that whole series is about. It's a really great one, by the way. I would recommend watching it. It's so beautifully animated and colored.
Cool.
It reminds me a little bit more of that than like the relative tonal darkness and such of Harry Potter, which it feels a little bit more grim.
Mm-hmm. And Harry Potter definitely got more grim as it went on as well.
Yeah, which it's understandable. I like the tonal lightness that Little Witch Academia has and the playfulness that it has.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really, really just a good thing to see, I think.
So you mentioned when you like summarized it in one sentence before, you likened it to Stardew Valley. Does that mean it's going to have like an ongoing play kind of thing? Do you know?
I would imagine so. There's not a lot of details that anybody knows.
That's fair.
We're all just kind of just waiting on this to come out, and we'll see where we go from there.
Nice, because I always like games that have a lot of either replayability or you can just play them forever, especially when they're these kind of games. I don't know, I just really like them. Like one of the things about Pathway is it sort of like Moon Hunters did, it's generates stuff each time you play it. I don't know if they're saying it's roguelike exactly, but it sounds like the idea is that every time you play it you'll get different stuff,
right?
Which appeals to me.
Yeah,
the roguelike stuff, always I have kind of a love-hate's a bit strong, but I like the aspect of you get different stuff every time you play, but I don't like the die quickly all the time aspect of it. But yeah, okay. 2 new games to look forward to is very cool.
Yeah, here. Chucklefish, they're just really great, huh?
Yeah, I really like their games.
They actually did publish Stardew Valley too, didn't they? Or was it just
yes,
was it self-published?
No, they published Stardew Valley. They didn't develop it, but I think they've helped with the multiplayer development.
Yeah, that was developed by Concerned Ape. That much I knew.
Yep, that's right. They developed and published Starbound. They've published a bunch of other games. I think all the games they've published might be pixel art games, which is one of the reasons why I like them, because I'm a big pixel art fan. But yeah, I agree. They make good games, and they pick good games to publish, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Hey, it also looks like, and I didn't realize this was even in development, if you're a fan of first-person puzzlers, it might be a good time to be a fan of first-person puzzlers, because Cube has just gotten a sequel.
What is a first-person puzzler?
So think Portal.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
Where it is a puzzle game that takes place in the first-person perspective.
I mean, I guessed that much from the description. I was just to think of how it works, but your Portal example very clearly explains that.
Yeah, like a lot of like movement puzzles, or even just like interaction puzzles that are all done and seen in first person.
Like the Talos principle as well, I suppose.
Yes, as well. I think you can play that in third person as well too.
Oh, okay. I haven't played it, but I've watched it being played, and I only saw that in first person.
But yeah, if you are a fan of the original Cube, which I've heard good things about, I have it sitting in my library and just haven't played it.
It's not a game I know. Is it spelled just like the shape a cube? Because it's going to be hard to Google.
Qube.
Okay. Things that are named after existing things are always hard to Google, so when they have strange spelling, that makes it easy. Okay, Cube is also a company that makes tents. Cube Game. Oh, it's an acronym. Well, it's written like an acronym, I see.
Yes. I've heard good things about the original Cube.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a cool aesthetic, very minimalist, obviously shape kind of driven.
Based on cubes?
Based on cubes, weirdly. If you're a fan of this style of game, including games like the Talos Principle, like we mentioned, the Turing Test, which was published by Square Enix, those developers, I think, also went on to make Battalion 1944, which was kind of quite a different game there.
Yeah.
So you got the Cube, you've got Talos Principle, Turing Test, Portal, those style of games. If you're a fan of those, it might be worth having a quick look at Cube. I imagine someone's got I imagine there's a quick look or a review up somewhere for y'all to take a look at. It popped up into my my feed fairly recently, so it's on my radar at the moment.
Cool.
You got anything neat on your radar right now?
Right off the top of my head, just those two. Well, what was one until really you brought up the second one. Those two Chucklefish games are kind of the main ones I know about. Like you said as well, the Monster Hunter stuff with the Devil Joe coming out in just over a week. Aside from that, nothing I think that's coming up I'm looking forward to. Although the next best thing to something that's soon to be released, I suppose, is that I'm still planning to soon buy the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC that's been out for a while now. Just kind of waiting for a good week where I don't expect to be busy so I can spend a lot of evening time playing it.
Yeah. I can't honestly think of anything that's on my radar right now either. Like, even with E3 coming up and, like, you know, like, that's a few months out still, but, like, that's the biggest time in games, and I can't think of anything that I really want to see or expect to be announced, and I just don't know. I guess Kuni 2 is coming out pretty soon, but, like, even that isn't super on my radar because I've got to finish the first one.
It's fun how you talk about expecting things to be announced. I am never in the know enough to expect anything to be announced. It's always news to me.
I think, like, Yardnum737 in the chat says Skate 4.
What's
definitely. That? Oh, Skate was EA's series of skateboarding games.
Okay.
Like Tony Hawk, but with more broken physics.
I played the crap out of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 when I was a kid.
Oh, back in the day, Tony Hawk was the jam.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I used to be super good at Tony Hawk on, like, the Game Boy Color, I think. I was also really good at the Nintendo 64 games, so, like, I was really good at the, like, weird side-scrolling version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that came out on the Game Boy Color.
Wow, I didn't even know that existed.
It was a, like, weird side-scrolling, like, linear kind of setup.
Oh, you're reminding me now. We had some family friends who I think they had a Jackie Chan and the Magic Scrolls or something kind of game that was a side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Game Boy Advance. I'm going to Google this real quick. But it was explicitly Jackie Chan.
Huh. Well, I'm thinking about weird Game Boy side-scrollers. I think my first ever video game was one of those, and it was just Mr. Nuts. I think I've talked about this on the show. That's the name of this video game about a squirrel, was Mr. Nuts.
I think I found it's Jackie Chan Adventures Legend of the Dark Hand, I think is the game that I was thinking of. This is wild. I hadn't thought of this game in quite a while. I was bad at it. I didn't try very much of it. But, I mean, it exists.
Also, Yardnome points out Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Game Boy games were isometric skating games and they ruled. Which I had the Game Boy Advance version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater as well. But there was a side-scrolling version of this that existed on the Game Boy Color, and it was not isometric. It was just side-scrolling. It was kind of wild. Mr. Nuts is also kind of wild for very different reasons.
So what sort of game is Mr. Nuts?
Again, it was just like it was a weird 2D platformer that starred like a squirrel. And there were a handful of weird levels. Like one of them was like a kitchen, and everything was giant in comparison to you because you're a fucking squirrel. Mm-hmm. And at one point you get like washed into the sink, and there's like a whole underwater section. Like it is just kind of this bizarre, weird creation that I don't fully know how to explain or describe. There's like, oh god, there's like a weird face boss. Like, it's just a boss that's a big floating head. Like, holy shit, it was wild.
There are a lot of really neat, really weird old games. Like, have you ever played the Jazz Jackrabbit games?
No, I haven't.
Jazz Jackrabbit 2 was a fantastic game. It's like the only platformer I've loved. It was so good. It had local co-op. You'd both be playing on the same keyboard, and like you had no elbow room, and they'd make you jump by mistake because someone's jump was the space bar, which goes the whole way across the keyboard. But it was so much fun. Just being able to play multiplayer on a PC, that like way back then was really cool. You know, it had a terrible underwater level, all the things that a great video game had to have back then.
Now, hang on a second, because I do have a contract in front of me. Let me just, excuse me. I need to go through this a little bit more here.
Wait, really?
Okay.
Anonymous just says in the comments that it was known in other markets as Gunny Bunny, which I've never heard, but I could believe it. I'm just going to Google that.
While you do that, I'm going to read from this contract that I've obtained. And this contract here, and it says, all game developers who are developing a platformer in either 2D or 3D are required to include a minimum of 1 terrible underwater level. That's weird. That's a weird thing to put into the contract. It also says, all Nintendo 64 platformers must have the same aesthetic. That's also weird. Not really sure what any of that is. I'm going to throw that away. Every platformer has those, though. Like, it's just bad.
Yeah, and there's the escort level where they walk into a wall and then die and you have to start it again.
Oh my god, don't talk to me about escort levels. I ran into some real bad ones in Assassin's Creed Origins lately.
Oh, really?
And
you think by now we'd have figured out how to not mess up escort
We
levels.
just don't know how to make, like, pathfinding for AI. We just don't.
I mean, Uncharted has done really well with AI companions. In Uncharted 1, not so much, but like in Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, you have an NPC accompany you, and it's not an escort mission because they're a badass, probably more so than you, and they can't die.
I feel like those games kind of have the advantage of not being, like, I guess so ambitious in scale that, like, you can spend time focusing on those AI companions because they're such a significant portion of the experience. Where in Assassin's Creed Origins, these weird escort missions are just kind of a side thing.
Okay.
That, maybe it gets a few days of attention, maybe a week or so at the most, and then, like, it's kind of put away.
I mean,
it's probably longer than that. Let's be honest. It's probably like a week or two, and it gets put away.
Frankly,
but even still, like, there's not a lot of time.
The simplest fixes to a bad escort mission, like, they're not polished fixes, but the simplest ones are: person you're escorting can't die. If you move too far away, they teleport to you. Cool. It's no longer frustrating.
Yeah,
basically,
and don't make you follow the character because it just exposes how bad their pathfinding is.
Basically, escort missions are bad. And the only way to make an escort mission good is to make it so that you don't have to care about the fact that you're escorting someone. They're
Yeah,
just
you
there.
just kind of go.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some fun escort missions, though, in Assassin's Creed Origins. I think I'm going to leave it there, but, like, there is, like, a fun one or two, and it's mostly made fun because of, the dialogue, which, again, is that thing that that Uncharted does so good at. It does really, really good at having these conversations with other characters in the world and making that part of the story feel valuable. And it's so rare you get to see that in games like Assassin's Creed. So it's a good change of pace to be able to say, hey, there was one that I really enjoyed and it stood out because the character was enjoyable.
Yeah, nice. I just started wondering if, in 15 years, there will be aspects of modern gaming now that we will look back on in the same way that we now look back on underwater levels and escort missions. I feel it's undoubtedly there will be, but I don't know what they are now.
I mean, maybe it'll be loot boxes.
Oh,
I don't know.
Shit. Yeah. No. Microtransactions and loot boxes, probably.
Season passes, maybe as well.
Yeah. Maybe
we'll look back at that at one point with disdain.
I mean, this could be that point right now, but yes.
I mean, give it a few more years, I'd say. Come on, let's be fair. I think there will be a point at which we do look back at that and think, that was kind of fucked up that we did that. And then we jacked up the price of video games, like 10, 15 US dollars. And that problem went away because all of a sudden, game devs were able to make a little bit more money consistently because we re-standardized how video games are priced. I don't know. The whole microtransaction debate is very, very complicated. Let's be honest.
We should definitely start it just over an hour into the show.
Oh, definitely. We should start it just over an hour into the show. I think maybe we can come back to that next week. We can talk about hey, here's the complexities of the microtransaction debate.
Let's postpone this particular conversation. I agree.
All right, that sounds like a good plan.
So, in lieu of that, what are you looking forward to playing this week?
I am looking forward to playing Diablo 3 with you. I think we're going to do a little bit of that after the show here.
Yeah, I'm keen.
Sweet. I am looking forward probably to giving Swarm Lake a little bit more of a shot because I only spent a few minutes on that, but I felt like it was neat enough to point out just because of the sheer scale of the thing.
Cool.
It was really cool. I'm going to probably put a little bit more time to that.
Nice.
I think those are my big ones right now.
Neat.
How about you? What are you looking forward to playing this week?
I'm not too sure. I've got a bunch of data that's due to be released to me on Monday that's probably going to keep me busy for a lot of the week. So this won't be the week that I'm going to buy the Horizon DLC. I'll probably play a bunch more Diablo. I don't know how much yet. I've got a D&D session to run this weekend, so that's going to take up some of my time.
So probably not smart to be playing a lot of it.
Sorry?
Probably not smart to be playing a lot of it.
I probably just won't end up playing a lot of it. But, I mean, we'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe the stuff that I'm expecting to keep me busy won't keep me as busy as I expect. But yeah, the main thing that I'm expecting to play over the next week is just more Diablo. And maybe some Monster Hunter because each week they've got some different stuff. There might be an event quest worth doing for the aesthetic reward.
Sweet as. Alright, thank you very much for tuning into the 76th episode of PauseCast. If you like what you heard and want to support the show in some way, shape, or form, there are a few ways to do that. First and foremost, if you'd like to support us financially, we have a couple ways for you to do that. The first is through our coffee. If you go to bit.ly/pausecastcoffee, you can get us a coffee via $3 one-time donation. I've opened up this option so that we can have a venue or have a way for you to support us without the commitment of a month-to-month kind of situation. If you would like to support us month to month, however, you can support us via our Patreon. If you go to bit.ly/PauseCast or patreon.com/PauseCastShow, you can find our Patreon there and give us $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you feel like. You'll get access to Discord roles, as well as a thank you in each week's show. Thank you very much to our current patrons: Sammy, Mary, Para, Allerdrain, Dove, Corybat, Residoke, Ashyi, Moth, and PD for their continued support of the show.
Thank you.
If you'd like to support the show by contributing to the discussion, you can email us at pausecastshow@gmail.com. If you send us questions, we will answer them live on the air as best as we can. If you'd like to give us a rating or review on your shop of choice as well, it helps us out a lot as well. Thank you very much to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. You can find Leon's music and download some of it for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. And that is going to do it for us this week on PauseCast. Again, thank you very much for tuning in, whether live or recorded. And until next time, see you around.
Bye.